The UCI World Tour continues, and after the cobblestones of Flanders we move east to the Netherlands as the cycling world begins to turn its attention to the Ardennes. Liège and Flèche-Wallonne just days away. Today though sees the youngest of the Spring Classics contested, the Amstel Gold Race. This event blends an attractive hybrid of styles, one to suit those who can do a little bit of everything. Not flat enough for the pure sprinters, not as steep as the pure climbers might wish, but this is the 48th Amstel Gold Race. Plenty of big favourites around for this one. The Moser family have been in and about. Thomas Vauclair always lights up a race when he can. And of course it's Pere Sagan that everybody's watching. Enrico Gasparotto won this 12 months ago. He's not had the greatest build-up this week, but he'll be well supported by his Astana team. All eyes on Sagan after his wonderful either first or second placings in every classic he's ridden this year. But also Philippe Gilbert on the very same course where he won that very same rainbow jersey looks to repeat the feat today. Damiano Cunego, former winner of this race in 2008, turned up for business as well, as did the Colombian pairing of Sky of Uran and Enar. Van Aert was Lotto Bellisol's best chance today before they lined up, and Sky having a several-pronged attack. As well as the Colombians, there's also the Norwegian Northern Light, Edvald Boisenhogen. Local hero for Omega Pharma Quickstep, Nicky Terpstra, his Dutch national champions jersey. And also lining up in the city of Maastricht this morning was Joaquim Rodriguez. Andy Schleck is riding today, but certainly nobody is expecting too much of him. Lars Bohm in for Blanco, and Nairo Quintana, fresh off great form in the Tour of the Basque Country, was also there for Movistar. So once everybody was signed in, we were all ready for the start. One man just missing. That means that there will be 25 teams beginning. And it was about 10:15 this morning in the central market square of the beautiful city of Maastricht, where the good and the great of world cycling, the history of this superb sport, saw them get off and underway. Well, the good news is that spring has finally come as well to accompany, touching on 20 degrees today for those 25 teams. 19 of them this year World Tour teams, plus those 5 invites as well. It's one of the most anticipated challenges on the Cycling Classics calendar, this, the Amstel Gold Race in its 48th edition. It was first won in 1966 by Jean Stablinski, a Frenchman. Only one other French win since then, that was Bernard Hinault in 1981. He, of course, the last man to win it in the rainbow jersey. Philippe Gilbert of Belgium, hoping to replicate that feat today. Well, Maastricht, just around 10 kilometres away from the finish line where we speak to you from right now. Just along the road, there's Bert van Marwijk, the former Dutch national team coach in soccer, just being shown around the course. And once they were out of Maastricht, ceremonial start finished and the official start was given. Didn't take too long for a breakaway to form, more of which we'll tell you about in just a moment's time. Well, there is that official start on a redesigned course this year for the Amstel Gold Race. Quite a few changes. The finish line has been brought into line with that we saw at the World Championships last year. And as I said, did not take long for those attacks to begin. Not all of them got away. I can tell you there is no Francis Desjeux presence in the break as it stands. But there are 7 men up the road, and they've had rather a large advantage so far. One of the men on the left-hand side of your screen there, Johan van Summeren, attacking with around 12 kilometres gone. And he would soon have plenty of company. 2011 Paris-Roubaix winner. Hasn't dealt brilliantly well with the weight of expectation that's been placed on him since. But a chance for Garmin to salvage something from what has been a pretty poor spring campaign so far. Van Summeren and his colleagues a while to get away and then for the break to settle down. So it did settle down. 7 of those riders are away. I can tell you that they are Astad-Loza, Van Overberg, Van Summeren, Plushin, Cess, Vogondi and De Trooijer. 2 from the same team. They come from the Accent Jobs 1T team. I Am Cycling also involved, as you can see. Garmin Sharp, Euskaltel-Euskadi, who finally had a couple of good days after a shocking spring so far, and the Top Sport Vlaanderen Baloise team you can always bet on to instigate breakaways and attacks in this part of the world. And Euphony involved with Class Cess as well. I can tell you that they did have a gap of up to 11 minutes. It hasn't changed too much as we get out onto the course. A couple of crashes, a couple of nasty moments so far. We've seen riders such as Ben King having to walk up on one of those banks. The climbs are absolutely packed with people, with the good weather helping as well. Seen a couple of falls as well. The likes of Martin Velits has gone down, Brian Bulgac, Tosh van der Sande. But they've all rejoined the peloton. They're all still riding, and nothing too serious as of yet, thankfully. Well, doing most of the work thus far have been Pere Sagan and Moreno Moser's Cannondale team. Lots of pressure on them today. Interesting to see how the race tactics work out, and it plays out throughout the afternoon. Just one of the many climbs that will be taken on today. 34 in total. To confirm, Astad-Loza, Van Overberg of Euskaltel and Top Sport Vlaanderen. Garmin have Johan van Summeren, the 2011 Paris-Roubaix winner. Accent Jobs 1T with Tim De Trooijer and Nicolas Vogondi. Krillin Euphony with Claas Cess. And I Am Cycling have the Moldova national champion, the ex-Katusha man, Alexander Plushin. We've seen the likes of Paterski working on the front alongside Stefano Agostini, who's in his 2nd year as a pro. Could control this. Lars Bohm not far from the front for Blanco as well. They've actually said today that they've named co-leaders. As our breakaway takes on one of the many bits of dangerous bits of road around this area.
Well, this is something they've introduced to this race as a test. They're showing some slow-mo shots. So they've got a special camera on course today. So we'll be able to see as the race develops. We'll see some of the replays in slow motion.
Canada at the front then, trying to set up and work for Pere Sagan, who's had such a great start to the season. Sagan, 3rd last year here, hasn't finished outside any of the top 2 in any of the one-day races he's competed in this season. Right through from the GP Camaiore that he won, he was 2nd as well in Strade Bianche, since won in Gent-Wevelgem, of course on Wednesday at Brabantse Pijl, 2nd in Flanders as well. He has had a magnificent start of the year. He's expected to go on and ride Flèche Wallonne as well if he feels that his legs are good here, but he reckons that Liège-Bastogne-Liège is too difficult for him. So his programme this year doesn't include the Giro d'Italia. Expect him to take a rest after Wednesday afternoon. And we'll see the Slovakian champion next in California, Tour de Suisse, the Tour de France, and the US Pro Cycling Challenge. He's certainly a marked man today, though. Big week for him, as it is for Moreno Moser as well. Just it's easy to forget that he's only in his 2nd year as a pro, the 2nd prong man, and perhaps a reserve option today for Cannondale.
Yeah, and what a good reserve to have. He's coming of age, and it was his Moser Senior that was here, Francesco Moser, that started this event this morning, and is enjoying himself in the VIP area just opposite. But yeah, there's a bit more speed at the front of this race as they tackle these climbs, and it's also important to concentrate and to be at the front. You can just see Peter winning. I was going to say fresh from a good ride in the Basque Country, but a lot of riders found it difficult. You said the temperatures here are a lot better than they were in the Basque Country and most of the season already, apart from obviously when they started in the Tour Down Under and earlier on in the year, the first World Tour event down in Australia, and then off to Qatar and Oman. But for a lot of these riders, this is the first time they've had their summer jersey, the summer weight jersey, because a lot of the teams give the kind of winter weight jersey, a thicker jersey. Obviously they've got arm warmers, leg warmers, and we've seen so many of these races with them all wrapped up. But today, you can just see in the centre, the Blanco rider got the zip down. That looks to me like it's Lars Boom, the former Dutch champion in there. And Blanco have got a bit of pressure. This is one of their home races, and again, they're looking for a sponsor for this Team Blanco to continue. If not, they'll be looking for other teams. So a bit of pressure on them today, but everybody's sitting behind the lime green of Cannondale, putting two riders towards the frontier. Again, they have got the out-and-out favourite. And you did say that Peter Sagan, not outside the top two in a lot of these major events. And he has made a few mistakes. You've got to remember, he's still young. He's made a few mistakes.
He's 23.
Yeah.
23 years of age. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's got a good 10 years ahead of him. And okay, he hasn't won everything. And he comes into most of these classics as one of the favourites. And, he was beaten hands down in Flanders by Cancellara, who isn't in this race today. He concentrates on the cobble classics. This is a bit different race, but it's all about concentration and keeping in the top 10 rather than the top 20 or 30. You really have to be right near the front in this, and very important early on to eat, because these hills come thick and fast afterwards. The bunch string out, they come back, and you forget about the nutrition you need for this event. 251.8 kilometres, a long way. It's going to be over 6 hours in the saddle, and it's very important to get the nourishment down. As you can see, Van Summeren just chewing in one of these bars at the moment.
Oh, interesting you mentioned the route. It's long, complicated and nervous, all round difficult really. Started in the city of Maastricht, heading out into this same Limburg region where the World Championships were held last September. Right from the off, classified climbs to take on, 34 of them in total. That's two more than the 2012 edition. And they include 4 passages of the famous Kohlberg climb, the top of which the race used to finish, and we've already had a bit of a smash further down the peloton. Oh dear, it's cross-country stuff at the minute.
Normally you see this in the winter in cyclocross. Yeah, it looks as if a lot of pushing and shoving. This looks to me as it's happened a bit nearer the front. 10 Dam is down there, one of the IAM. You've got Gilbert, the world champion, one of the favourites down, I think a bit tangled up, but it looks as if 10 Dam, this to me has happened near the front with so much difficulty and pushing and shoving.
Well, he's one of the men that they usually set on the front, and another indicator that it is at the front as well is the fact that Philippe Gilbert's gone down. And Rui Costa as well is one of Movistar's main men for today, is a Lampre rider down as well, as Gilbert is the man that patiently waits for an energy bar. Rainer Honig is the Krellen Euphory man involved.
Yeah, you just see the experience in Gilbert. He's not hurt himself. It's just he's tangled up his bike. He's looking for his spare bike. No real panic. Everybody will know there's been this crash in the peloton. They won't push on. He's just nice and easy. He knows if he panics, he's going to waste a bit of energy trying to get back. But the most person that was damaged there was 10 Dam. But it looks as if everybody will get back safely. So everybody can breathe a wee bit in the team cars.
Simone Stortoni was the Lampre rider involved, and this is what happened then. Look at the front of the bunch.
Yeah, right
narrow
near the
roads,
front. Yeah,
about 30 bike lengths back, not even that. You're right, and that sent people all over the farmland. Not good at all. Plenty of riders. That's at least 10, 11, 12 riders off their bike set.
Well, we did say it's about concentration, Robbie, and anything could happen. Just a touch of wheels and bang, it goes down. And 10 Dam was one of the first ones, and you can just see the reaction back here. Everybody just taken to the field at the sides. Unfortunately, the weather is good enough, and the field is, not cut up as it would be, and the riders can ride round. But it's you don't see this often.
You certainly don't. Cyclocross season extended. There you go. A bit of extra time cyclocross for you. As Peter Sagan was almost cut up, just about managed to stay on his bike, if you see, right at the base of that shot. And again, around 25, 30 riders having to take the muddy route. One of the Lamprey guys, in fact, over the hedge. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, we were just talking about the route when that happened. Korberg, of course, has been... It's not the finish now. Just under 2 kilometres from the finish. And here are the guys who were involved attempting to get back on. Ashley Dozer had Steve Chanel involved, who, after today, will take a holiday. Certainly not an easy way to finish, but Gilbert might have to expend a bit of extra energy, but again, you would not expect him to push on if the world champion's down in there.
No, I don't think anybody does. A lot of people respects Philippe Gilbert. He's trying to come back, but he isn't given full gas at the moment. He's just hanging back, waiting for the team cars to come past, and he'll slip in behind them. No real panic because I don't think anybody will be really pushing on. It's Lars Bohm. We know that one of his teammates, 10 Dam, is at the front, and Lars Bohm is. We said they would be taking it easy, but it doesn't look as if he's taking it easy in this descent.
No etiquette, no respect from Lars Bohm there. He's had it. My opportunity, he says.
You can just see he's Philippe Gilbert waving the cars by. This is the important part. Getting the cars by, getting in behind the cars and getting up, and not wasting a lot of energy in doing this. But for me, I can't really understand why Lars Bohm, especially if 10 Dam is down, can't understand why Lars Bohm is pushing on. Former champion of the Netherlands, former world champion at cyclocross, but there'll be a lot of riders. You can just see them putting their hand up to their ear and listening to see what damage there is behind. But for me, Lars Bohm maybe taking away 30, 40 riders. I don't know, etiquette-wise, he should be pushing on this hard at the moment.
BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race continues after a quick commercial break. More from the Netherlands on the other side.
Further news as a result of the crash, and it turns out that one rider was taken to hospital, and we mentioned also that Thomas Vauclair had abandoned. That means, unfortunately, that it is Vauclair who has been taken to hospital, and we'll certainly hope that the injuries that he picked up aren't too serious. So Thomas Vauclair abandoned, off to hospital after that early crash we saw. Movistar moving on to the front of the peloton. Options for them all week, you really feel, with Alejandro Valverde. He's recovered sufficiently from the cold that forced him to miss the Amorebieta last week. A rider that has to be taken into serious concentration, you feel, here, should he find his form. A couple of pros have been talking to him in the peloton and asking where he feels he is. He felt he was a bit too tired when he got to this stage, the Ardennes week last year. So he's taken it a little bit easier in the build-up and certainly looks like he's a little more fresh. Spaniard was third on this very course in the Worlds last September, and he's shown himself to be strong enough again in 2013. There's also Rui Costa we talked about as well. Man who was involved in that crash, but he's back in the group. And Nairo Quintana, perhaps one for a little later on in the week.
Yeah, no, definitely. He'll get some experience of the Ardennes Classic, although we're in Limburg today in the Netherlands, and they class this as the kind of Ardennes week. We've got Flèche Wallonne later on Wednesday. It's not as long as the Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Amstel Gold, sitting just about 200 kilometres, but it's an opportunity for Quintana. He showed great form in the Basque Country and taking that and beating Richie Porte, finishing second to the world champion Tony Martin in the final time trial. So he looks as if he's got some good form. But Movistar have come with a very, very strong team. You've mentioned quite a few of them, and Amador, Quintana, Vite, De Costa, Madrazo, Lastras, Valverde, Visconti. It's such a strong team, and they've come here. Valverde has already said to the press that he wants to come here and do well in the Ardennes races and try and do something today. BMC have got a very, very strong team. Cannondale have got a team where they've got the favourite. One of the riders was just getting dropped to the back of the peloton, so he's done his job. which has been very difficult for a lot of them. Sky Pro Cycling have come here. I know that from listening to race radio that Boasson Hagen was going back for bottles, so I don't think after Roubaix he didn't feel too good. I don't think Boasson Hagen is a man that they're looking after today. Maybe a case of Uran, or maybe even Sergio Henao, who looked very good in the Basque Country. But they have got some good quality riders, and we know that Kirienka has been on the deck earlier on today. But yeah, Thursday worked this, and that's why thanking there on the right hand side for Blanco in the black, white and blue, as after that hard effort it's gone back to the car and is taking on some liquids for the rest of the team.
68 kilometres to go, 5 minutes 28 now. The gap has halved from what it was early on in the day. Climbed above, just above 11 minutes, in fact. Very, very early on once the riders had got away. And at the moment, it's a combination of different teams doing work at the front. Not too much organisation, but it's strung out fairly well, which means that the pace is high.
Yeah, they know that if they want to win, especially Katusha, they have got some numbers. And, we just mentioned the team, and they have got some good riders there. And what they don't want to do is make this Amstel Gold too easy. They don't want too many riders coming to this final loop. The penultimate climb up the Coburg, they want to possibly have a group of about 40 or 50, try and split it up. They don't want to give Peter Sagan an easy ride. Cannondale, his team in the lime green, have disappeared from the front of this race. They have been riding for so long, but now they've kind of dropped into the peloton. Now it's a chance of looking after Peter Sagan. I think they're just in the middle of the picture there, just there, with Peter Sagan and about 3 riders round about him. So the likes of Movistar and Katusha have Movistar 1 rider, Katusha 2 riders towards the front. The rider in the white is Vorganov, the Russian champion. They just want to keep the pressure on. They don't want this race to be too easy, because it suits their riders for the tempo to be difficult.
58 at the back is Romain Sicard, the French Basque rider, who's struggling to keep in contact with the group. Again, just look at all these people out on the roads. T-shirt weather today. Might even be barbecue weather for some of them on the side. There's plenty of the sponsors' tipple being drunk as well, we can assure you, across here in the VIP area and out on the course as they're in Kadir and Kher. That's the breakaway with 67 kilometres left. Mikel Asta-Loza, part of an Euskaltel team today that does include Igor Anton. Mikel Landers here as well, as are the Izagirre brothers. They had a great start of the season in the Tour Down Under. More points in one day than they had in 2012 altogether, those brothers. But they've since not been able to back it up.
Been difficult for them, and they just managed to get through last year. I believe they had to sell one of the team buses to keep funding the team. And yeah, it's a difficult time for them, and they took on some foreign riders with points to stay in the World Tour.
That was a big decision for them, of course, because it all goes down to the philosophy of developing riders, the Basque riders, and it's something we've seen with the soccer teams of the region as well. Athletic Bilbao and other teams, as you see Kirienka out on the road for Sky.
You can just see the mud in the back of the shorts, or a bit of dust, and a couple of wee cuts in his arms. He has been off earlier on today. And one of the young riders, Edmondson, towards the back, Lars Boom, who was one of the riders that decided to push on when that crash happened. Doesn't look as if he's going the whole way with a skin suit on. He knew that he's going to do as much work for the team as possible. And this rider, he's a big rider. This doesn't really suit him. But at the back here, Kirienka, after his crash, just in front of him, you've got the young rider from Team Sky, and that is Josh Edmondson. But yeah, Kirienka, he rode kilometre at the front. He does that all year, and that's why I was taken on Team Sky. A very good team rider. Set to a team like Team Sky for this sort of race. But towards the front of Movistar rider was in fact the captain. That's Pablo Lastras. So they want to keep the pressure on. They want to split this race up. They don't want it to become a 20-man or 30-man group sprint, because that plays into the hands of Peter Sagan. So get more and more teams coming up towards the front, because Cannondale weren't pushing hard enough. don't think they're too worried about this breakaway, just under 5 minutes with 65 kilometres to go, especially with so many climbs to come. There's a large bunch, and what they want to do is keep the pressure on to whittle it down.
Interesting you mentioned Vasily Kiriyenka there. I think one of the protagonists of one of the best wins of a Grand Tour stage I've won into Sestria a couple of years ago when he was in his Movistar days. It was his first season out of the two he spent there. And it happened just a couple of days after poor Xavi Tondo had died out training in Sierra Nevada. And it was a win that they really dedicated to him. Everybody very hurt, upsetting the team. The man went out and rode for his dear life. It was a real hard man ride into the mountains in Italy, and one that I'm sure will go down in the history of the Movistar team as one of the best. 65 k's to go, 4 minutes 51 the gap. You can just see a few of the teams starting to get organised again at the front. We talked about Movistar and Katusha sharing out the work. The Megaformer Quickstep have got 3 bodies there. Megaformer Quickstep, who've had a pretty poor spring, it has to be said, but they've had a chance to win sprints. They haven't always done it, and I know that Mark Cavendish won't have been too happy with a couple of the lead outs he had. You look back to the Schelde Prize when he was really left on his own in the last couple of kilometres. Did the best sprint of the lot, but unfortunately wasn't good enough to get past Marcel Kittel, who'd started around 20 bike lengths in front of him and in the end won the stage. They had the Bonen bad luck as well, and things not quite going well for Chavanel or Terpstra in the rest of the classics. It's just been an off spring really for Megaformer Quickstep.
Yeah, it's not been the perfect start for them. They are a Belgian team. They love the big classic races. They want to do well in the classic races. Missing Bonen is a big loss to them, but it just means that it kind of opens the door to a lot of other riders. And for me, Brabant Spiel did a few good performances there and something to build on for the future.
One of the men that has produced one of the most positive aspects of their season before riding today, 112 Mikhail Kwiatowski, who we saw in the Tirreno Adriatico.
He's just up towards the front there, Robbie. We just seen a pick of him there. He's just sitting probably 6-7 back. There's a couple of riders round about him, and he's another rider that could possibly podium in this race. So yeah, they are looking after him as much as possible, and he could be a real outsider.
Lars Bohm at the back of the peloton, and after all the work he's put in, whether it be the right ethics or not, doesn't matter. He is spent, I think, for the day now. And Lars Bohm, as you said, might well be climbing off sometime. Waves everybody past, that's enough for him.
You can just see he started, it looks like all over for Kiriyenka as well for Team Sky. It just gets harder and harder, and no place to hide, and the worst place to be at this moment when Movistar and Katusha are starting to keep the pressure on, and this gap is coming down to the 7 in front is at the back, because again we're into this town with turns left and right, and it's a big elastic band effect, and the effect has to happen, and Lars Bohm put a bit of pressure on. He did start with overshoes and a skin suit on, so again, in a distance race like this, it's not, aerodynamics come into play, but at the end of the day, you need something with pockets on to store your food, because you're going to need a lot of nutrition to get through this distance.
So a pre-thought out plan, as we see Vorganov at the front. He's a Russian champion, Eduard Vorganov, number 78 for Katusha team, who've had an up and down winter, as we've mentioned many a time through the spring. It's the reason that we're going to see the extra team in the Giro d'Italia next month. It's 23 as opposed to 22 in the Grand Tour. This is Lars Bohm again. He's got his aerodynamics right down to the helmet, which has been a rather new part of fashion that I know we've talked to death about over this spring. But it is another part of the changing fashion in how people approach races. See, the crowd's not just confined to the climbs, people stopping the cars and peering over bridges. It's a big event in this part of the world. 4 minutes 43, and as a result of these accelerations, the likes of Bohm being left off, looks to be a top sport Vlaanderen Baloise rider he's with. We've got a couple of riders today, Sven van Dusselaar and Laurens de Vries, we haven't seen involved.
You're watching BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race. We'll be back with more right after this.
3 minutes 31 seconds. Amstel at the front, flicking that right arm, hoping that Van Summeren's going to come through. There's got to be some sort of quick organisation here if they're going to survive for another set of kilometres. Amstel, Van Summeren, Plushin. Confirmation of the Basque Spaniard. Van Summeren, of course, in Garmin and the Moldova national champion, riding for I Am Cycling. Look behind from Amstel. Plenty of movement behind. In the meantime, Movistar just eased off slightly on the climb. And it's Katusha. There are 2 men at the front.
Yeah, this was the opportunity for Gilbert to go back. He knows this climb was, it was a good road. He knows there wasn't any real panic. It's not as if it's one of these small roads that there might be a crash, which he was involved with before. And you've got to remember that, they have race radio. Talking over the race radio, every one of your teammates can hear. So sometimes a private conversation with your sports director about how you're feeling and that, you don't really want that to go out to the rest of your team if you're going through a bad patch or something like that. So just choosing the perfect moment to go back when there's no real pressure on this nice wide road, so he can go back, talk to John Lalang and have a wee chat, have something to eat and just gather the information that he wants for the last 50 kilometres. 3 Skyriders at the back. Wassenhagen, Edmondson next to him and Kirienka just behind. 3 minutes 22, the gap continues to fall towards this wooded area around Limburg. Well, if you like the race, like how it looks, and you like your touring and competing and having a look around, you can come to Limburg, cycle the route anytime you want. It's all mapped out. And there's also an Amstel Gold Visitor Centre just around the corner in Valkenburg, the historical heartland of this race. Very much similar to the Tour of Flanders Museum down in Oudenaarde, Flanders, Belgium. And on most of these roads there are plenty of cycle lanes, as you can see. It's a nice safe setup. And if you want to know, the bicycle has right of way over just about everything in the Netherlands. It is the country with the biggest percentage of cyclists per population in the world. 90-odd% of Netherlanders cycle a bike. Just looked as if Peter Winning for Orica Green Edge was just kind of trying to launch something. He knows that the pressure is on from Movistar. We are on obviously one of these kind of long climbs, and Orica Green Edge I've ridden well recently over the last few weeks, especially with Simon Gerrans in the Catalonia and the Basque Country, and Peter Winning, obviously a Dutch rider in this this Australian setup, obviously trying to do something. And it puts the pressure on the riders that are going back for bottles. Not often the best place to go back for a bottle, and he's hanging on the back and he's carrying a few extra kilos there. And sometimes in these situations, if you're really struggling at the back with all the bottles, it's better just to get rid of them and go back to the car again.
Miguel Minguez there of Euskaltel, 24-year-old from Bilbao, relatively new to the professional scene. Vorgonov at the minute at the front for Katusha. The Garmin riders we're hearing on the race radio has gone down. Waiting for a name. Can't see anything in the picture. Certainly hope that it's not Van Summeren out there in the break. Argos Shimano coming to the fore. Again, we mentioned Simon Geske, who was up there and finished well. Good news that Van Summeren isn't the man that's gone down. 3 minutes 6 again, another 20 seconds quickly shaved off in the space of 2 or 3 kilometres.
Yeah, he's trying to get as far into this race as possible. That's the man in front of the blue, Van Summeren, so much experience. He still has the rider in orange, Astroloza. But for Van Summeren, he doesn't want to be brought back now. He wants to try and get into this final effort so that his team leaders can just sit and follow the wheels, because it's so important saving as much energy as possible. And if he's still in front, the penultimate climb up the Coburg, then it puts less pressure on the Garmin Sharp team. So doing a very good team job at the moment, and that's what he was always good at. Okay, he popped up with a great win in Paris-Roubaix a few years ago, and it's just his efforts of being in front. So just trying to keep the pressure on. A very good tactic. I believe it's Eric Van Lankert in the car for Garmin Sharp, and a rider that's done well in this race in the past. So he's a rider with great experience. He's just having a wee word with Plushkin. Plushkin really struggled in that climb just before, so not really prepared to help the likes of Astroloza and Van Summeren.
50 kilometres to go and a very interesting development. Orica Green Edge turn on the pace and start to help this chase now. All set up for a good attack today by Simon Gerrans. Michael Alberzini involved as well. They've got Clark, Impey, Matthews, Mayer, Sulzberger and Veining. A superb team together for the Aussies. And having sat back and watched all the work being done by Katusha Movistar, now with the gap almost at 3 minutes, Brian, 50 kilometres to go, they've suddenly decided to get involved.
Well, sometimes either it gives it away that Simon Gerrans is feeling good, or the sports director has told guys to get in the front in order to give the likes of Simon Gerrans a bit of a kick up the backside. So it can work in both ways. So either the sports director has ordered this to the fact that sometimes when your team is riding on the front, it puts a wee bit of pressure on you. It's one of the things that Mark Cavendish used to say when he finished a stage. I sit behind my team all the stage, they bring back the breakaway, and the thing that's on my mind when I sprint, I don't want to let anybody down. So a lot of the sports directors put their team on the front because it puts a wee bit of pressure on their team leader to try and give that back. And it's a good tactic used by a lot of teams, not every team, but a lot of teams tend to use that. Just gives the team that confidence riding on the front. Gives the team leader that wee bit of kick up the backside that he doesn't want to let the rest of the team down that have done so much work earlier on in that race. So or Simon Gerrans feels good, and he's decided that they want to continue and they want to show well.
Well, a couple of the riders pressing their earpieces to their ear, so you might be right that those instructions have been barked through by Lorenzo Lapage, who's the man in the car today for them. Backing Simon Gerrans to the hilt then, it seems. The man who won Milan-San Remo last season. Spent all spring trying to get himself ready for these Ardennes. Put in the hard kilometres in Catalonia and the Basque Country. Worth remembering as well, he's won a stage in both races as well. So he's in good form as we see Thomas Dekker, who doesn't certainly look to be in any sort of form out of the back. 3 minutes 3. 4 riders lined up for Orica Green Edge. Skin suits being employed as well by a few of their riders. BMC not far from the front. Again, interesting to see where their tactics lie with Gilbert and Greg Van Avermaet. Van Avermaet must be absolutely tired out after a long sprint.
Well, he seems to think he's held his form right from Het Nieuwsblad, right from the first kind of classic of the year. So, he's happy enough, and he can play a major part of this race today in Amstel Gold.
Well, if he continues to have stuff left in the tank, then he's going to be important. We saw him really dragging and pulling Gilbert and then Sagan as well at one of the major climbs in what was the big attack in Brabantse Pijl on Wednesday. Flèche Brabançon, as it's also known in French.
The Flemish Arrow.
Exactly. The Brabant region. We have the Wallon Arrow on Wednesday, the Flèche Wallon. Better known of the two races. You can just see people really jockeying for position here, Brian. Cannondale all bunching up together.
Well, it's good for them. They have come up towards the front. They have got 3 riders round Peter Sagan, one just behind as well. So they've got 4 riders left, and so many other teams willing to come up and put the effort on it. It just means that Cannondale and the Lime Green can sit back and save their energies if they can for helping Peter Sagan, because Peter Sagan he's shown us he can win in a bunch sprints, or he can win on his own, and this person he's surprised us year after year after year, and he's coming up to one of these legends in cycling, and he's only 23, so he's got plenty of years, 10 years in front of him. You just see some of the riders choosing to go on the pavement or the sidewalk here, and the spectators there, and you risk that, and them jumping over and getting caught out. So not always the best to jump on. It's obviously easier to stay on the roads and races and leave the cyclepaths to the spectators.
Especially when we've got big no entry signs around them, like the one we saw there, the motorbike having to stop as we see Sagan's Cannondale team come to the fore.
Yeah, Cannondale can just sense a bit of nerves front of the peloton. There's riders coming back from the breakaway now. One of the Accent Jobs riders is, I think it's Detroyer now, coming from the front to the back very, very quickly.
It's going to slide straight out the back, surely, with that pace. Dear, oh dear. Well, you mentioned Sagan there.
14%. This is one of the hills that really, really bites. It just goes up to that inflatable, turns right, and it doesn't go downhill straight away. It kind of falls flat, and that's the bit that really, really hurts your legs.
Gulpenerberg, 10% average, and as Brian just said, maximum 15%. Only 600 metres long, but already plush and struggling. Everybody out the saddle, really. Astad Loza should be the best climber in here. Of course, he has Basque blood. And Summerin now pedalling away.
I don't understand why Astroloza's going up this climb so hard, so difficult, and it is only a short climb. This is the steepest part of it, and there's a bit of respite when you go round this corner and turn right. But it's better keeping these two riders with them. They still have just almost 3 minutes, but this is how the rest of the race are battling to get into first. You can just see it kicks up, and any changing of gear or fluffing gears, it's you can see riders walk this climb if they can't get by, and this is why it's so important to keep near the front, and that's why the race is on in a bunch to get good position on this climb. Also important, all these climbs to get good position, but this one in particular, because it isn't so wide, it's so steep, and there's more of a chance of slipping a gear or somebody having a mechanic on. When that happens, you just have to stop.
Well, the peloton aren't following. Look how far it's strung out now. We're going to see, as Brian said, all of that jockeying for position here. Everybody who is anybody needs to be close to the front now. Second and final passage of the Gulperberg. From there we'll head on to the Kreuzberg, which is 800 metres long again, an average of 7.5%. Asa Bosweg will come over that. The Fromberg, Keutenberg, which is the steepest of roads in the Netherlands.
I'll tell you what, Robbie, Cannondale doing a very, very good job here. They've been sat back for the last 20-30 kilometres, letting the other teams doing it, coming up at the right time here. They want to put Peter Sagan in the best possible place coming into this next climb. It's just not the climb, because you got this climb, your legs are absolutely bursting, and you go round the top, and this is what we're talking about. You get caught behind a crash like this, anything could happen. A lot of pushing and shoving to get up towards the front, and this is the sort of thing that happens. And it's just as you turn right, and if you're halfway down the bunch, the riders are already going over the top of this climb, and some other riders are still on the climb, so that's why it's very important to stay in the front of this race.
Local boy Rob Reich from Valkenburg is the man struggling to get back on his bike. No wonder he had his hands on his head. He's not one of these men who was a crosser, but he might as well have been looking at that picture. Omega Farmer, or I should say Orica Green Edge man's gone down. For Katusha, it's Joaquim Rodriguez. Yeah. Well, any idea that he might have had has just perhaps gone out the window, and he looks hurt as well, does Joaquim Rodriguez. Not good for the Catalan rider. And look at this. These guys will know what's happening. Cannondale have no choice but to pull everybody. They can't slow down on the climb here.
No, they won't slow down. The race is on. We're inside the last 50 kilometres. That's just part and parcel of a racing incident. There's question marks over the crash before when the race wasn't really on, but now the race is on. It's not going to ease off. I was just looking at the numbers. I saw 75, and that is his number. So, Rodriguez looks as if he's not going to chase and try and get back on. He looked as if he hurt himself, and one of the reasons why I can't see him finish is he looks as if he has hurt himself. This race wasn't a target for him. It's more important to recover for the likes of Fleshwaron and Lies Bastogne and Liège.
Purito certainly won't be cigar smoking away tonight.
BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race continues after a quick commercial break. More from the Netherlands on the other side.
certainly the selection. You can see Peloton really, really reducing. Selections being made, and here we go, the list of hills to come. Asa Bosveg is the one that Astad Losa has moved on to. Just over a kilometre long, 8.1% average gradient, and look at that, maximum of 16%.
Yeah, the bunch are on quite a fast descent, and they've got a left and a right back onto this climb, and we've just seen, I think it was Lithgard of Vacan Soleil wanted to kind of push on the descent of this climb, but the Astralos are doing a very good job of staying out in front here. He's still got 2 minutes and 38 seconds inside the last 40 kilometres, 25 miles, but he must be so tired. These riders, the original 7-man breakaway, in fact, Van Summeren went after 12 kilometres, so you can just see this is a steeper part, just up towards the top of this climb now. He's going to go over the top with just under 2 minutes, but it's coming down very, very quickly now.
As you say, under 2 minutes and under 40 kilometres. 39 to go, 1 minute 50 for Mikel Astad Losa. Plushin and Van Summeren, who were formerly breakaway companions of his, slipping all the way back to the peloton almost now. And look at the pain on the face of Van Summeren. It is a hard, hard day. .28 seconds between Astad Losa and those two men. This is what's happening in the peloton. All of the main contenders starting to get themselves in the right position. They now move on to the Asa Bosveg. After that it'll be the Fromberg and then the Kuttenberg. As I said, it's 12 kilometres into which 4 big selective climbs, certainly at race pace anyway, are packed. And then after that they've still got 4 of the bigger climbs still to come. It is an unforgiving race. It's a hard race. So complicated, so difficult to control. And we're just approaching the moment where all the emotion, drama and tension is going to be packed now. There's the right-hander. Remember, the mental aspect of this race so important as well. So vital to keep concentration. We've been stressing for quite a while. There's Diego Lisi. Man who wants a podium from his next 3 races. Former double-time junior world champion. Peter Veining. Looks like his style.
Yeah, Peter Veining and Nordaug for Blanco just pushing hard. Bit of a surprise for winning because just in that slow motion we saw that Gerrans was down towards the back of that main group, but Peter Veining obviously showing some good form from the Basque Country. Nordaug just struggling to go with him, so now we're starting to see some of the protagonists of this race starting to push forward. 37 kilometres, still a long way to go, but the likes of Peter Veining doesn't want to just sit back and wait for the likes of the Gilbert v Sagan contest. He wants to try and push out, and obviously that's why they came to the front earlier on. About 10 kilometres ago, kept the pressure on because they want to try and split this race up.
Well, he's a Dutchman from Harkema, former Rabobank man. He's worn the pink jersey on the Giro, the year that Contador last won it before it was stripped and given to Michele Scarponi. Van Summeren, again drifting back, around 30 seconds behind Astad Losa at the moment. So the shot we saw of Albertini and Gerrans. Gerrans was actually wearing a skin suit. Interesting tactic from him. Again, all that aerodynamic help that he wants. He must be having other people carrying his food for him. And we're being told now that there are 46 seconds that separate this man and Astad Losa. So drifting back all the time now to the peloton. Johan Van Summeren. This is the man out front. Or at least we had him in motion for a moment. Does seem to have one little problem with our motorbike following the peloton. and then a little later the breakaway as well. Great to see so many supporters out there. Dutch flags, the real moment that Astarloza broke the men that were with him. Powerful attack at ascent on the Kreuzberg. He took on to the Asia Bosweg on his own and heading towards the Fromberg now. Again, apologies for the lack of live images at the moment. We're just being told there is a connection problem at the moment with the motorbike at the front, the one that carries the picture. I've never wondered how pictures have been back from a race, as we thankfully get him back. Miguel Astarloza. And this is Peter Weining on his way to try and join him. Weining jumping away in the Orica Green Edge jersey. Again, we talked about the strength of their team today. So many tactical options. And the first card has been played. The local boy, the Dutchman, the former Rabobank rider, now with Orica Green Edge and attempting to try and join Astarloza.
Yeah, we go down this road and we turn right onto the next climb. Astarloza's already on it, so this is a kind of long drag, very open, and quite lucky that the wind isn't blowing across it. The conditions here for the Amstel Gold Race 2013 are absolutely perfect. The first time that a lot of these riders have had their summer jerseys on and enjoying the temperatures here. So Astarloza doing the ride of the day from the original breakaway of 7 riders.
Well, once more, this is the moment that the second version of that breakaway was broken. It looked as though for a minute that Van Someren might be able to follow Astarloza, but he was just too strong for them. Again, the wisdom of the bunch separating there has to be questioned, but Astarloza, to be fair to him, has continued to ride strongly. Perhaps he just felt that the others had nothing left to give and were slowing him down. It's certainly a busy and big decision to make. Busy in the sense that you've got almost a heck of a lot of things going on in your mind as well.
Well, Van Someren was trying to keep it together earlier on, and he was trying to encourage all the other riders in the kind of second division teams to keep the pressure on. But obviously doesn't have the legs when Astarloza went, and Astarloza now on his own. Marcus Burkhardt leads into the climb for BMC. So Gilbert obviously feeling good and want to keep the pressure on. I don't think they're worried. 4 kilometres to go for Astarloza is starting to get very, very tired now. You can just see grimacing. We're on this climb from Fromberg, maximum 10%, and this gap coming down under 2 minutes.
Well, one of the better hills on which to attack for Weining, you feel. It's not the steepest.
Yeah, we saw Leguten down towards the back there, Uzbekistan champion, and now on the Fromberg he's decided to go after Peter Weining.
So Lagoutin getting involved as well. Uzbek national champion. Weining out there. At the minute, they don't seem to be too interested in Lagoutin. 1 minute 52 back to the peloton. Burkhardt on the front, as Brian mentioned. And another interesting tactical card for BMC. And he's a very, very strong classics rider, Marcus Burkhardt. Lagoutin pulling away by the metre. And it's what we said, that if it does come back together, with quite a long way to go, we're going to start to see a lot of these types of attacks with teams putting bodies out there and trying to test the water a little.
But that's what they're trying to do. They're BMC and Cannondale will try to control things well. If a team like Vacan Soleil or Orica Green Edge want to try and win this race, they want to try different options. Of course, they can keep one rider back to try and go with the likes of Sagan and Gilbert and the final time up the Cobar, but they want to have another option, plan B, and trying to put riders out in front and leave the chasing to the likes of BMC and Cannondale. Now we're into the final few climbs, and getting close to the final 30 kilometres is so important, but so is having numbers, and a lot of the teams will now be depleted. Cannondale especially, they've ridden at the front for so long earlier today. So it depends on how many teammates you've got back, left with you.
Quick conversation between Pushin and Van Someren there. As they head now towards the Kurtenberg. Quite thin roads out here. Everything's going to have to be stretched out to keep it safe. Something should see help the gap go down a little bit further. Here they come. Looks as though Lagoutin's attack, by the way, isn't going to last too much. Garmin now putting a man on the front.
You're watching BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race. We'll be back with more right after this.
Here is Astan-Losa. Comes the big turn.
Yep, straight into the small gear, and just wants to try and pedal up this as much as possible. This is one of these climbs that gets steeper and steeper towards the top, and it doesn't as if it goes downhill. Very, very difficult. You can just see they put barriers on it, but at this 32 kilometres to go, this is a brute 1,700 metres and no respite at the top.
Maximum 22%. I must give credit to the superb inner ring cycling block, who actually did the research and said that it is the steepest road in the whole of the Netherlands. 22% is horrendous. It's up there in terms of the gradient with the biggest climbs and the most famous climbs in the world. Of course, yes, it's short, but it's the 30th climb of the day. Let's not forget that. It's hard when there's over 200 kilometres in the legs. You've been up and down all day. You've been concentrating. There's not much energy left, and if there is anything left, it's going to sap it right out of you.
Well, if it gets over the top of here, the false flat at the top for a couple of kilometres on a small road, and then we do have a fast descent back in towards the bottom of the Coburg, so it does look as if he'll get onto the Coburg, but again, you can't see him staying out there too long. You just see his body's absolutely aching from the effort he's making. And you know, this is where the main decisive move normally was made in the Amstel Gold, but as we can see from the top left hand side of our screen, there's still 31 kilometres to go towards the finish.
Van Summeren now struggling on these early big gradients, almost pedaling squares here. The effort's there. He's overtaken by Weining, who reaches him. This is interesting. Just under a minute, I would guess, behind Astan-Losa. Weining joining right on the back of the wheel of Plushin, who's kept a little better rhythm. This is a good ride by Peter Weining so far. Long way to go yet.
He's inspired because he's a Dutch rider, okay, riding in an Australian team, but for me, if he wants to try and win this race, he's went out a wee bit too early. 30 kilometres to go. He's on his own. He never dragged anybody with him. Now we're starting to see some riders from Blanco coming up. Nordog is in there. Stana have got a rider in there. So more riders are starting to think, I tell you what, we're not going to wait for the likes of Gilbert and Sagan. We need to put riders in front.
Lars Peder Nordhaug, David Tanner and André Grivko, the three riders chasing Peter Weining there. Remember that Peter Weining's Grand Tour win in the Giro d'Italia, the day he took pink, and that was a heroic ride as well. It was a day that they had the sort of Strada Bianchi, the last time they did the stage, not the first time when it was hellish and rainy and horrible. It was a day in which I think Tom Jelte Slagter had a nasty fall. But Weining went on to win the stage, win it absolutely brilliantly in the pink, and he stayed there for I think it was 4, 5, 6 days. That was until Alberto Contador took the pink jersey and then rode it all the way to the finish. Here's Astan-Losa doing his level best to stay out. 30 kilometres to go.
Credit to him. He's hanging out there, and obviously the rest of these breakaway companions have dropped back, and you know, he's hanging out there. He's got some strength left in his legs. This is the man that's made the move a couple of climbs ago. David Tanner, you know, an Aussie riding for a Dutch team, doing a good job here for Nordog, the Norwegian team, in the same colours as Blanco. But this last year was the penultimate climb. This is where the race was really on, but we can just still see there's still, you know, there's gaps happening at the back of the peloton, but there's still 50-60 riders left. Normally at this stage there would probably be about 20-30 riders, so as predicted we're going to see some more riders come to the penultimate climb of the Coburg.
Well, selection's still being made, just at a different rate, as Brian was saying to last year. Grief glint of Astan-Losa as he crowns the climb. Veining not too far behind him, I can tell you that. Now Plushin has been caught. Krivko pushes Tanner out the right-hand side, gets between the two Blanco riders. Lars Petter Nordhag is the man out there in the front. The Blanco rider from Norway. Plushin, for the moment, will attempt to try and stay with these four. As one of the jury motorbikes goes past them. Great to see the sunshine, I can tell you that. Certainly adds to the positive mood of the racing today. Been waiting for it for so long on European roads this spring. Another indication of those gaps starting to attack and appear at the back. Ryder Hejdahl, the man pulling them on the front. Remember, he was second in this race in 2010. But again, certainly with the change, doesn't look like one that he'll be attacking. It's Dan Martin, as Brian said, the Garmin leader for this week. 1 minute 35 to the second group. .28 kilometers left. The Krutenberg has been attacked. There are 4 kilometers remaining. We've got twice up the Kohlberg, and in between the Gulhammerberg and the Bemelerberg. All climbs that carry significant difficulties of their own. Both length and average gradient all up there in the 5-6%, all around a kilometre long as Veining poddles on.
Yeah, he's decided to wait. He's ploughing along at his own speed, and he wasn't making inroads into Astroloza, but I look behind, and the fact that he's taken on some nutrition as well. He's seen that riders were coming across, and again, still we mentioned this too early. Still, when he went with just over 30 kilometres to go, it's probably better that he waits for these riders and commits in some numbers. We go back to the main peloton led by Movistar in the dark blue, but still so many riders in there, 50, 60 riders still in the main peloton. They're going to hit the bottom of the Kohlberg. A lot of riders taking on still nutrition. It's a hot day. It started off quite cool this morning in Maastricht, but it's warmed up very, very nicely. 1:25 back to the second group in the road, and it would be possibly nearer 2 minutes now to this main peloton.
Here we go, attacking. It is Katusha who've launched their latest attack. Remember, Katusha minus Joaquim Rodriguez at the moment. And the man who has had a go for Katusha looks to be Simon Spilak. He's been in great form as well. Absolutely superb. He's been followed quickly. It seems to be that they're bothered about a man of his quality trying to get away at this time.
Yeah, they don't want any Katusha riders going there, and it was very quickly shut down there by BMC. A lot of riders just looking behind, and normally at this part of the race they'd be thinking of the finish. They know that there's still 1 lap to go, and obviously 2 more climbs of the Kohlberg. So a lot of tired bodies, nobody really wanting to take it on. And again, there's a strong group in front, and again,
Spilak again
decides that they don't want to hang about, they want to keep the pressure on.
Well, first dig was shot down quickly. Interesting to see what happens this time. 27 Ks to go, and Simon Spilak, the man who's been performing brilliantly in the Basque Country, gets away strongly. Look behind, the meters grow. This time it looks as though he hasn't been followed. Well, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Hejdahl's decided to sit on the front for Garmin. And Simon Spilak is on his way. And who had a Romandie title handed down to him a couple of years ago after a very good finish. He was behind Valverde, who then had it taken off him.
BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race continues after a quick commercial break. More from the Netherlands on the other side.
Stan Lawson attempts to try and get to the Kohlberg, still out there in the lead. Heading in towards the finish line for when the bell will be rung, and it will be final lap time. Final lap of a different circuit this time, out towards the Gulhammerberg, Bemelerberg, and then Kohlberg once more. 55 seconds between Astar Loza and those chasing him. Cunego is 1 minute and 15 behind. So he's well on his way to those 5 chasing. It's been an explosive attack from the Little Prince. And there are 22 kilometres remaining. Here's Plushin, as Brian said, a bit of a passenger here, and he's absolutely right. To finalise those time gaps for you, we're hearing on Race Radar that there's 1 minute and 40 seconds now between Astar Loza and the peloton. Andrei Grivko in his Ukraine champions top. And listen to this, heading up onto the Kohlberg. 4 climbs to go, including this penultimate ascent of this Kohlberg, and Astar Loza fighting to keep the energy flowing to those legs that have been pedaling like pistons all day, and getting enough encouragement to keep doing it. 900 metres long, maximum of 13%, an average of 7%. Remember, the race used to finish here. You see a few flags from the region of La Rioja in the north of Spain out there to greet him. Also, Euskaltel Euskadi, traditionally taking riders from La Rioja, the Basque Country, Navarra. But now in its globalised form, despite that, it's been the riders who were formed at the team who performed for them this week.
Well, I suspect the spectators, after being drinking Amstel beer all day, will cheer anybody, especially with an orange jersey at this moment. And he's doing a terrific ride. He's going to come through these finishing line with a small advantage, I think, possibly about 30 seconds. But the race is on now. We have 20 kilometres to go when we cross the finishing line. And Cunego is now coming on to the Kohlberg for the penultimate climb. So he's coming across to this 5-man group. I believe that Plujkin will get dropped in this climb to leave Tanner, Nordag, Wiening and Grivko. But the race is really on, and the bunch are now chasing hard as we see the riders from BMC, Marcus Burkhardt, just making a big effort at the bottom of the Kohlberg coming up towards Cunego.
Oh, this is bubbling up to be something very, very exciting indeed. Plushin hanging on for dear life at the moment. But Tanner, Grivko, Nordhag and Veining all pushing on. It's the attack further back from Cunego that's the one that's looked the most explosive for me.
The cars out, Robbie. This race has been shut down. Cunego on the right-hand side. Some more riders pulling over to the right. Gerrans is up there for Orica Green Edge. You can see Valverde moving through. This race is going to blow apart.
We're just saying that Cunego looked great and looked explosive, but look at what's come from behind. Philippe Gilbert, Simon Gerrans, Pere Sagan, Alejandro Valverde, all the big boys are there. Gasparotto as well. Ulisses made his way to the front. It's time for the action to begin. Just over a lap to go, and everybody has suddenly appeared in the right place at the right time. Marco Marcato now having a look. Vaco Soleil already ready to light this up.
Kofi just put it in the big ring there. That's the outside chain ring, so obviously feeling very good. He had a strong performance in Brabant Spiel, so this is where the original finish was last year. So we've got just over 1 kilometre to go to the finishing line, and Marco Marcato have started to light the front of this peloton out.
Marcato's gone. Saxomac rider following as well.
Kreisinger now goes. Anton now goes for Euskaltel, but Kreuziger is a danger. And he has started for Saxo Bank. He's starting to cross this gap to the riders that have just attacked, and the bunch are just kind of sitting there looking who's going to chase. But leave it to BMC, leave it to Cannondale, and they're letting some of these attacks go.
Oh, this is pretty incredible as they crown the Kohlberg. Astar Loza can't be too long now in front. The pace has up significantly. Everybody who's anybody is involved and is there. And these 5 men in the breakaway are about to have company. Kreuziger, Marco Marcato.
And I think that might be Caruso. It's with them as well for Katusha. So they're 3 strong riders, and there is a reaction from the front of the peloton. It looks like from Omega Pharma Quickstep, just bringing back Anton from Euskaltel and one of the other riders from Vacan Soleil. So we're into the finishing straight. You can just see Astroloza coming along to her commentary position, and again, I'm going to say this again, chapeau, what an excellent effort he's made out from kilometre 12 with 6 other breakaway riders coming across the finishing line. You can just see it up in the distance, a long straight line, and he's going to make it 19 kilometres to go as he crosses the finishing line. What an effort he's done today.
Mikel Astroloza approaching the finish line for what will be the last passage before the race really begins. Look, the chase is on behind. Kreuziger, Caruso, and of course with him other quality company in the shape of Marco Marcado. The peloton isn't too far behind, and also the riders that got away in the chase, the likes of Tanner, Slagter, Plushkin as well, Veining there, all chasing on, and everything to play for with just over 18 kilometres to go. Astroloza will cross the line first. 5-rider group behind him, and the clock is already ticking. Peloton looking good, looking hungry, more attacks. Look like they're cooking up. Astana have plenty of bodies and shirts already at the front. There they go across the finish line. One final lap to go. The Belgian, Spanish, Flandrian, Dutch flags all fly proudly here at the finish line. Omega Pharma Quickstep cooking things up. Cannondale don't seem to have too many bodies left at the front now. I count 3. Omega Pharma Quickstep have plenty. Orica Green Edge still have Gerrans in there. And Pere Sagan is tucked right in the middle of that chasing group of a peloton that is starting to fracture more and more as the kilometres tick by.
Yeah, I just watched them past the commentary point we're in at the moment. A lot of people really struggling in this race. Rui Costa just going through the finishing line. Yeah, it's just splitting apart. And yeah, we did say this. It's what numbers you've got left at the front. And Cannondale have done a terrific effort for Peter Sagan, but that's the tactic. We knew this was going to happen. We knew that teams were going to go out there and attack and attack and attack. They don't want to come to the last time up the Coburg with Peter Sagan and Philip Gilbert. They know there's going to be a battle to the finishing line between the two. So what they're trying to do is keep on the attack. Rob Rouge still in the race, coming through the commentary point at the moment. So chapeau to him. The local rider still in it. Yeah, difficult time for a lot of riders, and they have to go on the front. BMC and Cannondale, they want to win this race with all these riders attacking. They have to do something now inside the last 20 kilometres.
You're watching BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race. We'll be back with more right after this.
As I say, Leukemans for Vacansoleil and Fulsang now making an effort for Astana, just sitting behind them. So it's all action here in this final lap as we see Dan Martin coming across the finishing line. So when we were thinking Garmin, we're looking at Dan Martin. Dan Martin crossing the finishing line with some dirt, obviously from a crash earlier on today.
So count out Dan Martin. Count in just about all the men in this group for the time being, bar Mikel Astroloza, who must be absolutely spent. The breakaway is over, and this now is the group that is bossing the race. Caruso is there, as is Grivko. We've seen Kreuziger. A look behind from Peter Veining, who's still up the front.
Oh, Peter Veining coming from the Basque Country and finished, I think it was 6th overall, showing some good form. Okay, he's made a bit of an effort earlier on. For me, Caruso is a big danger. Caruso, when we've seen the stage that was won by Henao in the Basque Country, and Caruso was one of the riders that came from the back and joined them just for a moment, and I think finished 3rd in that stage, a very difficult stage in the Basque Country. So he's pretty much at home in these short, sharp climbs, and you just see at the front of the peloton, nobody really willing to chase. Leukeman's shake of the head. Fulsang takes a drink. This is danger times. 15 kilometres to go. They've got some strong riders in front. looking very much like some of the predictions that they thought that on this final lap, some of the breakaways would make it all the way to the finish. Because you look at the peloton, nobody's willing to chase.
Well, how much is left in the legs? I know that there's a Lotto Belly sole rider who's joined the group here. Certainly tell that by the short sleeves. And is that Van and Dert? It is. Jelle Van and Dert, who spent some time off the bike. A nasty, I think it was an esophagus problem he had in the Basque Country.
Yeah, Simon Gerrans is also tucked in behind as well. So
that pulls everybody along.
Yeah, of course it does. This is going to come back. BMC bringing this back. But yeah, just a few riders saying, come on, come through to the front, do your turn. But this group in front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 riders now. Not the original break of 7 riders, but a new group of 7 riders have, what about 20 seconds in the front of this group. And if they work as hard as they can, then, you know, who's going to chase? How many riders have they got left? So Norddog on the right, Caruso is also there, Grivko's still there in the white coming through to do his turn in the front. Kreuziger, it looks as if we've got Peter Winning not doing his turn, and Marcato sitting at the back. Astroloza, the rider of the day, just sitting last man and taking tickets. He's not going to do any work because he has been done all day. Doesn't look, with the flick of the elbow of Kreuziger, that too many of the riders want to commit 100%.
Well, there's still a couple of climbs to go here. The Bemelerberg and then the Kohlberg remain. Bemelerberg to come with around 7 to 8 kilometres to go. Kohlberg inside the last couple of kilometres. There are 14 kilometres remaining. And groups 1 to 2, just 7 seconds separate them. The race is wide open, but as Brian's been suggesting, those behind in the peloton have to make sure they stay interested here and have to make sure that there's a will to chase. Otherwise, it's going to get very, very dangerous. Another flick of the arm there from Kreuziger.
But the thing is,
Loza hanging on.
The thing is, Robbie, these 6 riders, okay, Asher Loza has been out in front, but the 6 riders in front have to commit. It's in their best interest to commit towards the finish and then battle it out the last time up the Kohlberg. They've got 7 seconds with 13 kilometres to go. It's who's left in the bunch to chase. We know that BMC want to try and do something. We know that Cannondale, have they got the riders left. We know that Moreno Moser isn't in there. This is a time, maybe BMC, if Van Avermaet is there, maybe should have had someone in this group in front, but it's left to Cannondale, and they are depleted in numbers.
Well, Moser is dragged out the back, not involved. Remember, he spent a bit of time training at altitude in Tenerife, and he said that he was sick during that time as well. So he hasn't quite managed to recapture the form we saw in the early spring from him just yet. And that has left Pere Sagan somewhat isolated. Sagan way down in this group at the minute.
We'll just look, Cannondale with 1 rider in front, and then behind them you've got the teammates of most of the riders that are, got a man in front. So they're not going to do anything. So yeah, there's no real concerted effort. Cannondale have to do something, but they're not going to bring back these 7 riders with 1 rider. The other riders have to commit, and it's not just Cannondale have missed out. There's other teams in this main group that have missed out in this front group. Omega Pharma's Quick-Step don't have any rider in front. You can just see a pink jersey of Lamprey. So many riders missed out. They're looking good, better and better. Don't believe this is 7 seconds, maybe slightly more. With 12 kilometres to go, they just have to commit 27 seconds now. So it has gone out as we thought. Norddog at the front for Blanco. Alarm bell should be really ringing. This is a very strong group, and other teams have to come to the front to try and shut this down if they want to win Amstel Gold 2013.
12 kilometres to go, 27 seconds the gap between a very, very good group and the chasing peloton. Depleted numbers for Pere Sagan. BMC hiding at the moment. 27 seconds, and if somebody who is a big name here wants to win this, they have to have teammates up the front. The question is, how many have the big boys got left? 12 kilometres to go, 27 seconds, and suddenly a Megaformer Quick-Step begin to get interested here. We've seen 1 Lamprey jersey there. Is that Diego Lisi, or has Damiano Cunego managed to keep his own position following his attack? BMC, surely with Van Avermaet not too far from the front. This, in the meantime, is the big group up the front. Peter Veining is there in the Orica green edge top. We can see Roman Kreuziger, Lars Petter Nordhaug, David Tanner, and that very dangerous looking man in the Katusha red and white jersey, Gianpaolo Caruso of Sicily, Italy. Also present, Andrei Grivko from Astana, who have plenty of bodies in the chasing peloton. And by some sort of a miracle, Mikel Astarloza is still in with a shout with 11 kilometres to go.
Yeah, he'll just want to hang on as much as possible. He's been out there from kilometre 12 and everybody knows that, and allowing them just to sit there. It's up to the 6 riders in front, and all 6 riders, very strong riders, and again, a wee bit of the unknown. For me, the big danger is Caruso for Katusha, already showing some great form. Peter Winning, okay, we would have said being a Dutch rider in this race with the form he had in the Basque Country, but he went solo for a while, and he might be smarting slightly from that, being in his own for so long. But yeah, these 6 riders, Kreuziger, another good rider in this front group, and it's left to Omega Pharma Quick-Step to do most of the chasing here, 24 seconds, because Anton in third place in the Orange for Euskaltel isn't going to do anything, because he's just sitting there thinking, well, this is a great chance for Astarloza to finish 7th and get some World Tour points for us.
It certainly is, and even if he does come back together, he's fantastically placed to attack on one of the remaining 2 climbs as well, which is very much his forte, let's not forget. A little steeper they could be, or they should be, for him to have any real impact, but he's in a good position. Gap going down now to just around 24 seconds, but with 10 kilometres remaining, 2 climbs remaining, still opened up for just about anything to happen here. Looks as though there's some good work being done now by Omega Pharma Quick-Step on the front of this. To me, it looks less than 24 seconds. He'll wait for the GPS to update. I would say it's just about inside 20. Kreuziger takes his turn on the front. Caruso and Weining. They seem to be the main 3 men pulling this along here. That as Nordhaug comes through. Just tell him apart with the Norwegian former champion flag and bands on his arms, on that white and black kit.
Bright green, yellowy shoes.
They won't get lost commuting on the way home, will he? He certainly doesn't need them today. It's been murky all spring, but finally the sun shines out and we have a real race on our hands. 10 kilometres to go in the Amstel Gold Race. The 48th edition of this wonderful event around the province of Limburg. And we have a breakaway that's been formed in the last 10 k's or so. Now heading on to the Bemelerberg. Penultimate climb of the day. Bemelerberg and Korberg remain. The Bemelerberg, the second passage of this, 1.2 kilometres as the pace is up by Grifko, and it's 4.1% average. There you go, a maximum of 7, and Grifko's little dig has just helped them on a little.
Yeah, Grifko is one of the riders who's obviously with numbers back in the peloton behind. They've had to go on the attack. He's not going to win it from the riders that he's got left. He doesn't have that sort of finish, but yeah, this gap coming down. Now that Grifko's gone on the attack, then
here comes Nordhaug as well. Nordhaug with the latest dig. 9 k's to go. Weining's trying to follow. We've seen Astarloza attempting to be distanced off the back, and Nordhaug, who's been in the counter-attack for a good 30 kilometres now, has showed some good strength here.
Nordhaug has found it difficult changing teams to Blanco. He was with Team Sky, and a really good rider for Team Sky, and hasn't really done too much this year, but Grifko, after making that attack, has now gone backwards, and we're left with Nordhaug on the right. Weining, the Dutch rider, on the left-hand side for Orica Green Edge. Kreuziger still in there with the yellow stripe. Saxo, Tinkoff, and at the back, a big danger in the red. Katusha have got Caruso in there, so it looks as if 4 riders now left, with the bunch behind closing fairly quickly.
Mikel Astarloza's day over. He drifts towards the peloton. Grifko broken alongside this man, Marco Marcato, who looked to be a danger. And just look how close the peloton are now. Astarloza already being rejoined by the Omega Pharma Quick-Step. And watch out for Igor Anton here now, because he's well placed. And you'd have to think that he'd have a go from somewhere. Probably on the Korberg. Surely don't think it's hard enough for him to make a real difference then. Certainly with the 1.8 kilometres after it.
Well, it does look as if it is closing down here. Grifko by the skin of his teeth coming across. Marcato still distanced. You can just see the wind coming from the left to the right of our picture, so it looks as if all over for Marcato, but What an effort there for Griffco, coming across, attacked at the bottom of the climb, got distanced, and is hanging on. 5 riders now in front of this year's Amstel Gold, but the bunch still in sight. And for me, Philip Gilbert is leaving all this to the Coburg, like he did in the World Championships last year. He's leaving it all to the Coburg.
It'll be good to get a look at that chasing group, because I'd love to know where Sagan is here. In the meantime, it's Haystal. The huge frame of the Giro d'Italia winner pedals away, and he's going to have a go here. 8Ks to go, and the man who was in pink and very pretty in it last May is looking to get away and try and better on his 2010 second place. The Canadian riding away from the peloton already. He's reached Marcato, and he's on the way to join the 5 men who are out in front.
Well, we did see him make some efforts earlier on, and it was, for the likes of Dan Martin, but Dan Martin had a crash today. He's been distanced. It looks as if he's climbed off, and when we came through for the penultimate time, and left the Heisedal to try and salvage something for Garmin Sharp. After having Van Summeren in the break all day, they have to try and do something. But back to the front, it's Kreuziger for Saxo Bank. Tinkoff have decided to go on the attack and try and go alone.
Well, he's a man who is desperate for some individual success. He's had to change his goals as a rider in the last few years. Have to think that the move to Saxo Tinkoff is a positive one for him, because it takes the pressure off him that was on him at both Liquigas. The likes of Nibali were around, and Basso, and then in Astana, all the pressure on him in the Giro last year. Didn't quite make it as a leader, and he's got to look to these sorts of races to get his success now, and he looks very, very strong indeed.
Definitely strong rider, and he has distanced the others. He only has a slender advantage, and Veening goes through to the front in the green for Orica. Norgård tries, but still no big reaction from the peloton. We see one of the Radio Shack riders trying to come across to Heisedal, but nobody taking control of this race. Some of them still saving that effort for the last time up the Coburg.
A big effort being made here by rider Haystal. He's put some real distance between himself and those chasing. Of course, if he can get and bridge the gap, then there'll be a quick chance for a rest. But it looks as though he really has buried himself with this effort here. Kreuziger, in the meantime, continues to look strong. Again, the wind dropping right off. You can see the windmill and the flag barely moving. And they're heading towards the final climb of the day. Caruso decides that they cannot wait any longer here. They have to work hard together. Caruso, Veening in second place, and Grivko inside the 3rd place position there. Veening looking behind. What's going on, guys? We need to work hard. Let's go.
Yeah, they're committed. They have to do something. They're fully committed. They've got one rider in front, and they have to commit themselves, and that's what Kreuziger is doing. He's committed himself 100% to win or lose. He's going to give it 100%. You've got in between the Blanco rider of Norddog, but Caruso goes through in the reds for Katusha. Grifko hanging in there. Peter winning at the back for Orica Green Edge, but there's still not a lot in it. 21 seconds back to the main peloton. There's still some big favourites in there.
Long way to go in terms of drama and what could happen here. Not too long in terms of distance. 6 kilometres, about to come 5. Crowds start to build on the side of the road. I can tell you the cheer on the Coburg is going to be huge. And then crowd lining the route for the last kilometre and a half or so. And plenty. I can tell you there are about 20 bodies deep here at the finish line. There are loads of people about already to welcome whoever is going to finish first here. Nordhaug has been caught. Now a group of 4 chasing on. And again, they can't afford to hang about. Caruso isn't hanging about. And there goes the counter-attack. Quickly followed by Grivko and Veening. Nordhaug hanging on the coattails of that. But with less than 5Ks to go, 26 seconds between Kreuziger and the peloton, with this man, rider Haystal, joining on those chasing behind.
They've just called in the neutral service car to follow Kreuziger, so this gap is healthy enough. He's going to need about 40 seconds as we hit the Coburg. Still anybody's race. A rider from this bunch can still win this race, but it depends on who's committed and who's got the riders left to bring this man back. We're onto this very fast descent, and this takes us all the way to the bottom of the Coburg, and then he's only got that between him and victory. Is it going to be enough? We're going to have to wait and see.
I'll tell you what, people who will be delighted with how this race is coming out is the organisers. Talk about the route change, excitement right to the last here, and this is looking good for the people out front, but not so much so for Ryder Haystal, who shakes his head and looks absolutely tired out.
Well, in the past we've seen group finishes, a group of 20, 30 riders come to the finish together at the bottom of the Coburg. We have seen individual brilliance and individual wins, even off one individually, Frank Schleck before that. But it's going to take a big effort for Kreuziger if he still wants to hang on for the win here.
Ben Hermans for Radio Shack Leopard has put a real dig in. He was exceptionally strong in the week in Brabant-Chapelle. He's carried on that form here in the breakaway on Wednesday and surviving very close to the end. Now it's the Kohlberg. This now is the final climb of the day. Inside 2 and a bit kilometres to go, and this is Roman Kreuziger, the race leader, with what we're hearing is around 20 seconds of a gap. Group behind looks tired, looks spent. There looks like there is no will to chase here.
Well,
and
this was last year's
good
finish. Kreuziger has got this in the bag, but we have got another 1.6 kilometres. Hermans comes through and he's closing on these intermediate riders. But where is the group? Where is the main group? Because for me, they're round the corner now. This is going to be touch and go whether Kreuziger managed to hang on towards the finish.
Well, the Kohlberg, the fourth and final passage here on the 48th Amstel Gold Race. 1.2 kilometres at 5.8%. At the moment, it is the rider from the Czech Republic, Roman Kreuziger, leading them up, but he's being chased by a group that is in itself about to be swallowed by a main peloton who is hungry for victory as well. The motorbike's being ushered out the way quickly because here come the main men and here comes Philippe Gilbert. Sagan not far away on the wheel. Gilbert
Sagan's
launching his attack. Sagan cannot go with him. Gilbert looking good, looking strong. Gerrans can follow him though, and this could be the main move we're seeing. Philippe Gilbert on the same roads that he won his rainbow jersey on last year. He's quickly past a spent Caruso and only really has Simon Gerrans for company. Or is that Valverde coming up behind?
Yeah, Valverde's coming up in the dark blue, and this is the sort of effort that he done last year in the World Championships. And as you said, the last World Champion that won the Amstel Gold in the World Championships was way back in 1981, and that was Bernardino. But it doesn't look as if he's distanced the riders. Gerrans gritting his teeth, so is Philippe Gilbert. Valverde is on Gerrans. I don't think it's enough, but he has to keep on going. They have to get Kreuziger back inside the last kilometre.
1 kilometre to go. Kreuziger looking okay at the moment. Has to ride for dear life. Excitement to the end of the Amstel Gold Race. Behind him, chasing, very hungry, and in the World Champions jersey is Philippe Gilbert. The question is, does he still have time? Valverde at the moment, number 107 on the wheel of Simon Gerrans. This is this little false flat bit now before they head into the end. It's been crowned by Roman Kreuziger. Kreuziger pedalling away, and here comes a counter-attack now. Valverde, who've been sitting, waiting, has finally pounced. The question is, has Gilbert spent his effort, and can these guys work together enough in the last 300 metres to catch Kreuziger?
For me, they're riding for second. Kreuziger's had enough in the tank now to hang on. He's looking round. He has got about 10 seconds. That's it. 1 kilometre to go now, and Gilbert looks as if he's about to be caught by Valverde. Just eases ever so slightly, joined by Valverde and Gerrans. For me, these guys are riding for second and third. Kreuziger looks as if he's got this in the bag.
Well inside that last kilometre then. And Roman Kreuziger has a decent distance. 3 men chasing behind would have to work together miraculously well. But it's Roman Kreuziger who looks as though he's going to take one of the biggest wins of his career. Kreuziger, who's won week-long stage races, he's been touted as an ex-big GC thing, but here he has put in a wonderfully timed attack and looks to be darting to the line to a victory. Roman Kreuziger wearing 171, the leader of Saxo Tinkoff, who we hardly talked about today, has put in an attack at an opportune moment and is riding on here in the sunshine for the first time in spring. Lifts his arms, and Roman Kreuziger celebrates winning the 48th Amstel gold race in superb style. And as Brian said, we're going to have a sprint for second. Gilbert the first, they've allowed the bunch to catch them, and this is anybody's. How much energy is left here? Gilbert, twice winner, leading it out. Sagan, remember, distanced and outside the way. It's not going to be Gilbert. Valverde looking good, and to me it's between Valverde and Gerrans in the other two spots on the podium. But this is the main news. It's Roman Kreuziger who's won.
Ho provato il percorso e ce l'hai fatta, Roman.
Roman Kreuziger. Well, they're asking a few questions. Let's see if we can hear from him. Easy, he says. There you go.
That was his Swan Europe saying it was easy. I don't think that was an easy win for him all the way to the end.
BN Sports coverage of the Amstel Gold Race continues after a quick commercial break. More from the Netherlands on the other side.
And Brian, what a finish. Wonderful finish. I mean, the organisers perhaps took a risk by changing tradition here. Some people not happy with it, but it was exciting right through the fast 100 few metres.
It would be an attacking group, and a group did get away. Okay, the rest of them were swallowed up, but I don't think they counted on this man staying away. And it's an opportunist. It was all or nothing, and he gave it all, and he got it all. You can just see the sprint for second place now, and Gilbert leading out on the left-hand side. Valverde comes through the middle. Gilbert's legs have gone. Simon Gerrans tries to squeeze past, I think, into third place. Kwiatkowski was also in there, but we'll just see in the side-on vision. Valverde in the middle in the dark blue for Movistar. For me, Gerrans gets third place. I think Gilbert was pushed out down to fifth with Kwiatkowski in fourth. So, yeah, not the perfect ending for the world champion Philip Gilbert. The last time it was won in the World Championship jersey was 1981 in Bernardino. But the new person in the Amstel throne is this man here, Kreuziger.
Here's the final classification. Roman Kreuziger by 22 seconds ahead of Alejandro Valverde and Simon Gerrans of Australia and Orica Greenedge. Valverde and Gerrans alongside Gilbert, who just pipped Gianni Meersman it was for a Mega Farmer Quick-Step into fifth place. Vening Loikermans, Gasparotto up there again, Caruso and Wegman all in the top 10 and all putting in very, very good races indeed. The main prize though goes to the man at the top, Roman Kreuziger of Team Saxo Tinkoff and the Czech Republic. Biggest win on the one-day circuit for him so far. So in the World Tour, this is how it looks at the moment. Fabian Cancellara, no surprise, is destroyed everybody as far as that's concerned. Pere Sagan and Richie Porte, Nairo Quintana, Joaquim Rodriguez, who we saw climb off earlier on today. Sylvain Chavanel down to 6th after a good start of the year. Greg van Avermaet's consistency's taken into 7th. Contador, Geraint Thomas and Tom Jelte-Slagter, who remember cleaned up points down at the Tour Down Under earlier on this year. Third in the Amstel Gold Race. A couple of wins in both Basque Country and Catalonia. Winner of San Remo last year and up there again in a big classic. A very, very good third for Simon Gerrans. And here's the news that will delight Murcian and Spanish fans all around. Alejandro Valverde. He's had his sick periods, he's been on and off this year. He's also trying to taper and tailor down his own assault on spring races, and it's resulted in a very, very good second for him, beating Gerrans in the sprint. This is the winner though, The main man on a big day, the warmest day we've had on a bike this spring, this summer. 20 degrees being enjoyed by just about everybody, but nobody will have enjoyed it more than the man at the front who receives his trophy. Francesco Moser and the rest of the presentation party handing out the trophies. And Roman Kreuziger is the winner of the 48th Amstel Gold Race.